please join me in welcoming Donna Cheung, the Executive Director, Wakefield Agency, which is a certified B Corp. Woo! Strategic Storyteller Nouver Cheung, the Creative Director of Wakefield Agency, Marketing Strategy and Video Production. In this session, you are going to learn how to present a successful pitch. I'm going to hand it over to you, Donna and Nouver.
Cool. Thank you, Amanda. Hello, everyone. My name, as you've already introduced us. I just wanted to do a quick little intro on who we are, and then Nouver's going to dive in right into the presentation, and we're going to make sure there's a good few minutes for people to be able to ask questions at the end. So ultimately at Wakefield, we were finding that a lot of organizations weren't quite connecting with their audiences because they just didn't know how to tell their story in a compelling way. They were losing ground to the competition, and they struggled to grow. So we've been on this journey to help clients shape their stories in emotive ways that connect the audience to their cause. We believe that organizations with moving stories can create movements of change. And so that's exactly what we're here to do together with you, to help you tell your story in such a way that people will want to support what you do. And so I'm going to be passing the baton to Nouver. He's the creative director at Wakefield. A little on him, he's an Enneagram, he's a 5 on the Enneagram. He loves to smoke meat, tinker with woodworking, and he's a voracious learner and consumer of knowledge. He is also my husband and business partner of 11 years. We've got 2 boys, 6 and 1 years old. And so everyone just give a little clap for Nouver. And I'll loop back at the end with Q&A.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I am going to I apologize ahead of time. I should have sent in my deck. I didn't. Please forgive me. But here we go. Hopefully this will be of service to you. So today we are talking about landing your pitch. Y'all are going to be battling it out for the betterment of our city. So thank you. And I'm just gonna dive right in. Right. So before we start, just want to acknowledge that we're grateful to be on the territories of the Coast Salish peoples, the Squamish, Stolo, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam nations. All right. This is what you have to do. You've got a 5-minute pitch, and you're going to tackle social isolation in Vancouver. You're just going to do it just like that in 5 minutes, of course, right? No, but obviously it's going to be a very condensed thing. It's going to be very packed. It's going to be very, very, very tight. So how do you get your very, very big idea across to engage not only the judges, but future team members, perhaps supporters? All these sort of things come into play. So this is what we're talking about today. Creating impact is all about leaving an impression. So how do you go about leaving an impression? So this is what we are trying to do today. Okay. So the key question here is, what story are you telling? So there's a great temptation when we do these sort of pitches that's like, hey, we're a fantastic team, we're really awesome. And that's a good story, but that's only part of the story. I think the story that we want to tell is one that centers around the people on the behalf of whom we're trying to solve their problem, right? Whatever problem that is that they face, we're trying to help with. So what do they want, right? So social isolation is a huge topic, and it reaches across, name your demographic, right? There's not just like one demographic that faces this, not just one neighborhood. And post-COVID, all of us have seen and experienced social isolation in some way, shape, or form. So this is an immensely timely yet and just very global, as it were, topic. So how do we know? What do they want? So who's they? That is one of the key questions here. So you are in the unenviable position in presenting this pitch of being in between. You have actually a couple audiences that you're trying to satisfy. you have your audience, the judges, because they need to get on board with you. They need to buy you and your idea. And also you need team members to fill in any gaps that your current team has, right? You might have UX, but you don't have, name it, right? You don't have a coder or whatever. So this is the thing. So like you need people to buy you. So on one hand, you need your audience to buy you, but also your end user needs to buy you as well. For impact to actually be realized, you need your end users to buy it, buy whatever you're doing. So that's a day. Just keep that in mind. If you only address the audience, as it were, it might be a little pandering. But if you are addressing purely the recipients, then you're not entirely like capturing the breadth that you need. So just think about that for a bit, but I'll address that later on. Okay, so your judges, your future team members, they want what they ultimately want. They want a compelling cause. So whatever you're putting out there needs to go beyond, oh yeah, we're gonna promote connections. Like, yeah, okay, great. On behalf of who? Like all these sort of things will contribute towards a compelling cause. Okay, and talk about how to build that up. And the end users want a solid solution to what stops them from a better future, right? If it's the elderly and they're experiencing isolation, they need something that is going to answer beyond, the community center program, for instance, or signing up for an app because they actually technology is not the best way to connect. Like all these sort of things come into play. So so they need something that'll fit them, right? Okay, so here's the meat of it. What stops them? What is the thing that is in their way towards connection, towards a sense of belonging, whatever it may be? What is it that stops them? This is the thing that we need to define. What do they need to do to overcome this problem? So that's the solution. And where will the solution lead them? What is the better future that you are building for them? Because that is ultimately the journey we need to lead people down, right? Not just say, okay, there's a problem and here's our thing that we're going to build or the program that we're suggesting. Bare bones, every kind of pitch is going to have those elements. But how do you make your pitch stand out is how compelling it is. And that's what we're ultimately here to talk about. So I'm a former engineer in my former life. And one of the things that we dealt with was pressure. So for those of you who only do metric, excuse me, but in Canada, we deal with dual units, unfortunately. So I'm still on the imperial pounds per square inch, right? PSI. So this is a handy little acronym to remember. So in order to create impact, you need pressure, and pressure is problem, solution, impact. And you need to define these three things clearly in order for it to stick. Just a solution without a good context laid out by the problem isn't helpful, and no clear impact in the end is just kind of like, I want to build something cool. And I don't think that's what we're here for. We want to build something that's going to make a difference. So problem is interesting. There's different facets to our problem, and in this case, the facets are the following. So there's an obstacle, so kind of an objective statement towards what the problem is. So let's take the elderly for an example, just because there was a stat that just really really stuck out for me. So, or their story really stuck out for me. So there is the elderly are increasingly facing isolation, and there is a resulting emotion that comes from that isolation. What is it? Okay, they're feeling lonely. They're feeling like they can't live on. Oh, okay. All right. So now we're kind of getting down into the human side of things. So just an objective description of what they're experiencing isn't enough. We need to dig into what the emotion that comes from it is, the other kind of underlying impacts. And then finally, what are the stakes that occur if the problem is not solved? So the elderly are experiencing isolation, leaving them feeling vulnerable, lonely, and unable to go on, ultimately affecting their survivability, right? Their viability, as it were. Like we, so those sort of things. Like then, like we see the elderly passing on before they should. That type of thing, right? So then, like the stakes are important. Seeing how your end user, your target end user, is going to be affected if the problem isn't solved, makes it more compelling for people to understand. So the solution. That's a problem. You need a solution, right? Otherwise, it's just really like a downer. We're not into making downer films, right? Or downer stories. So here we go. So a solution is two parts, the guide and the plan. We're going to talk about the plan first. The plan has to be simple steps towards success so that people can understand. So you don't kind of need to dive into the nitty gritty too hard, but it just needs to be like, oh, I see. Okay, so we're going to knock on the doors of, like, we're going to first get the list of the elderly in this neighborhood, and we're going to knock on their doors because honestly, email ain't going to cut it. Maybe. Or we find out where they are hanging out, or maybe we find the program that they go to, whatever, right? Simple steps that we can take towards success. So those things need to be laid out. And then it's a progressive path. It's not like huge jumps. It's like, okay, and then they're going to like go skydiving together. No, that's not going to work, guys. Let's talk about how like we can make this a sequential, really just a journey that will take people along in a story. Finally, it answers the object, it answers the obstacle, right? The resulting emotion and the stakes, right? This plan, if it doesn't answer those things, we're hooped, right? So that's not a solution otherwise. So this is important. All right, the guide. That's you, okay? You are the guides, not the hero of the story, because the hero of the story is your end user. You're trying to change their future. You are there as the guide. You're trying to provide a solution for them. So what are you there for, right? Providing the solution. Okay, you bring skills, experiences, resources, right? You bring all of these things. And what you need to make the future to come to life, right? Like those are all the things that you're going to need, right? Like there's going to be the timeline. There's going to be like, okay, there's going to be the people who are going to be involved. There's the funding, all these sort of things, right? It's like, those are the things that you're bringing. So, sorry. Sometimes though, and depending on the team that you bring, there might be gaps. So this is a bit of a side note, but I would say don't let the gaps in your team limit the size of your vision, right? If you see something and you just want to go for it. And then if you can make a compelling pitch, people will join. That's the thing. So just dream big, go big. So that's my rah moment there. Finally, you have to lay out the brighter future, right? And part of it can be statistical. It can be useful. Part of it needs to be story, right? So then either like if it's been piloted before, you've seen examples of success, being able to tell that story can help people get the picture, right? The picture, what people want to see, is something that they can actually grab onto. If it's a little abstract, then it's not going to kind of hook into their hearts, which is what ultimately good storytelling is about. How will the beneficiaries feel, right? Okay, so they're going to feel a sense of belonging. They're going to feel just a sense of warmth, and they're going to feel even a sense of purpose as they engage in our program. How will the supporters feel? You, the judges, or whoever is supporting the cause, you will feel like you've made a difference. You will know that like your investment didn't go to waste, right? And you're gonna feel confident that you're being a part of the solution, right? And how can it be even brighter? Well, come join us. We need more people on board. The more the seniors are engaging in community, is more chances for us to engage with their wisdom, where we can inherit their wisdom and pass it on to our next generation. We're losing knowledge if we don't preserve and don't open up or revive that sense of purpose in our elders? How can we do that? So that sort of thing, right? So what is the flip side? The solution is avoiding. So that's kind of the negative side, right? If we don't, so when we are able to engage our elders and give them more of a sense of purpose, and they're healthy and engaging in community, we avoid losing them ahead of time, ahead of the time that they really should be, and we are avoiding losing the life wisdom that they could pass on to future generations, that sort of thing, right? So then being able to restate that, the like what the stakes are ultimately. Okay, so summary: problem, what's in their way? Solution, what could help them? And impact, what their future could be. This is huge. It's kind of, there's very little to do with us as the people, as the guides. We form part of the story, and it's a very small part. See, like if you laid out all the elements, like if there were like 7 elements of the story, only one of them really involves you. Part of it involves, so like 1.5, because the plan involves you, but a lot of it involves what the end user, the hero of the story, will engage with. So the story we want to tell is your end user being the hero of the story, and us as pitchers, as guides. Okay, so 13 minutes, or maybe a little bit more, probably 15 minutes, but lots of time for Q&A, and we can even try workshopping out some ideas. So please, hopefully that was helpful.
Awesome. Yeah, we have until 2:25 for questions. So if anybody just wants to unmute themselves or ask something in the chat, go for it.
I have a question that our team has had today. So in the problem statement and in the documents from for the actual conference in the Battle of Brands, it has kind of said like focus, try not to narrow down your audience, like make it as broad as you can. But then in several of our breakout rooms today, we've been challenged by speakers to narrow our audiences down and not keep it broad. So I mean, I can see value in that, but we also don't know if we're still not supposed to listen to that and keep to the program.
I can't speak on behalf of like the formation of that problem statement deck per se, but from personal experience, something will stick a little harder if your audience is a little more narrow, because you're able to apply specific language and specific circumstance towards them. I do think that when they're saying like, don't narrow it down too hard, maybe it's down, maybe problem summarize. Okay, I will get there. So I think when it can get too niche, then you're narrowing down your impact too much, perhaps. So maybe that's where the team was heading with that, possibly. But I think picking a demographic wouldn't be bad, just to like for your sanity, because it would be very hard. Yeah, because it's hard to provide like how do you like you? It's always big. I always think it's about looking for like, okay, so what is the desired impact and what's kind of like the common denominator? So I'm gonna do something terrible. I hope I didn't steal someone's idea, but like this is something I've been thinking about. So I live in a neighborhood where it's single, so it's detached homes, right? So single family residences. So pretty easy to detach and just kind of do your own thing. How do you improve the connection and community there? So thinking like, okay, so can we like, this is just me just thinking. So how do we do this? Oh, what if we were able to do more like just informal dinners, right? So, but how do you do that in kind of like post-COVID where people, well, okay, why don't we try doing it in front yards? Why don't we try making a kit for homes? So I'm not really like down a demographic per se at that point, but I am still looking at a common denominator between all of us, which is we have something separating us. How do we address that? Right. So I don't know. Does that help?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe it's to ask the rest of the team. It just said throughout the process, it's inevitable you'll think of specific audiences, people. That's okay. In the evaluation part, aim to move past that and generalize as much as possible.
Something you might want clarification on to someone who's smarter than me on this one.
Okay. I don't think smarter than you is the issue. So, okay.
I don't know. There's a greater vision, but I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Sorry. I'm just gonna hit this thing here. Problem, solution, impact. So problem. What is in the way of your end user / people that you're trying to solve a problem on behalf of? The solution is made up of you as the guide having a plan that will progress them through from, instead of feeling like they have to jump. Yes, it's a Donna Miller thing. Yes, building a story brand. I'm an acolyte. I'm full transparency right there. But the idea is that this plan is something that takes away the fear and kind of the unknown behind. So, but what do you mean? What do you mean connection? How do I want to connect? All these sort of things come up, right? For someone who's been disengaged from connection for a while. So, okay, how do we build a progressive journey for them, right? And then the impact is a future that they can grasp and that they want, right? So there you go. Hopefully that answers it. On the question of how to sell the compounds, easier to compute clearly, look for stats. Yes. Okay, cool. All right. Any other questions?